Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Dennis Stone, Director of the Center for Advocacy and Social Justice at the Jacksonville Urban League. I'm very pleased to have all of you with us and those of you that will be viewing this video on YouTube. We're very pleased to have with us Rashid Williams from the Blue Zone Project. The Blue Zones Project started about 2 years ago in Jacksonville and actually took several years before that in planning and development and application. It took a lot of effort to bring it here. And I'm anxious for him to give a little bit more background on what he does for Blue Zones and what he's done in the past, and then to let us know, give us an update as to what's happening with the Blue Zones project. So, Rashid, welcome, and very pleased to have you with us.
Thank you, Dennis. It's great to be with you all. Good evening to all. I am Rashid Williams, as you said, schools lead for Blue Zones Project Jacksonville. We are literally ending year two of this project in its transformation phase and entering in year three. Prior to coming to Blue Zones, I spent 13 years as an educator working in Title I schools within different places. Started out in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then moved to Jacksonville as well. So I've served as a history teacher at the middle school level for 3 years, and then moved on to some program directorship with KIPP Jacksonville Schools in their KIPP Through College program, where we worked with students making trying to figure out what their post-secondary plans were beyond high school. And so we pretty much advised them and supported counselors in different schools with helping them figure out whether they wanted to do 2-year, 4-year military or even career technical education. And then became director of the KIPP 4 program here in KIPP at KIPP Jacksonville Public Schools. Did that for 3 years, and then the opportunity to join Blue Zones came about in 2023. Was excited to join the team and make a connection between two things I love, which is schools and education, but also health and well-being. Without further ado, I'll jump right into tonight's presentation and update you guys about where we are with Blue Zones Jacksonville. We'll talk about this as our main document that governs what we do in Blue Zones is what we call our blueprint. We'll kind of use that as our guiding post for tonight as we talk about how do you help a city become more focused on community well-being, right? And that's what we're here to do through our project. And so I always like to start with this question for people to just ponder and think. No need for anyone to answer, but in your mind, I want you to think to yourself, what does better look like for your community in terms of well-being? Right. I want you to think about it from a quantitative and a qualitative standpoint, right? What are the things that will come to mind, right? I know when I think about it, as a former educator, I think about, do kids have safe bike paths in their community? Do they have sidewalks where they can walk and go play? Do they have parks nearby where they can go and swing and play whatever game they want to play with their friends? Do family members, parents and guardians feel that their community is safe for their students to bike or to go outside and play, right? Or do we have a crime issue? Or do we have an issue where you just don't have those type of resources in your community, right? No sidewalks, no bike lanes, right? So another one is to think about is, do I live in a food desert, right? Do I live somewhere where the closest grocery store for me is over 8 miles away? And there's no city transportation to help me get to that location. So I have to rely upon things that are in my walking distance or within a bike ride away from me, such as a Family Dollar or a Dollar General or the convenience store at the gas station. And so again, those quantitative measures also is looking at, obesity, right? BMI, weight, right? Also high blood pressure, some of our vitals when we go to that check-in with our primary physician, right? So these are all the things we think about when we start talking about, community health. And so I always like to ask this question too, and use your emojis on the Zoom for those who are aware with it at the bottom of your screen. By a show of hands, would you rather have A, more years in your life, or B, more life in years? So if you say A, just put a hand up, right? If you say B, more life in your years, just give me a thumbs up emoji. So again, by a show of hands, would you rather have A, more years in your life, or B, more life in your years? All right, I see a couple thumbs up, right? We got some more life in your years, right? Somebody, most people will say that, right? We want to feel alive while we're living. We don't want to just be alive for the sake of counting years and getting older, but we want to actually have a high quality of life. And so we always like to ask this question in Blue Zones is what if you could have both? What if you could have that high quality of life while living longer, right? And so that leads to our mantra, right? Our mantra is living better longer. And right. And so when we think about this work, it starts with this gentleman on the screen, Dan Buettner, our CEO, who really was as a young man, he was always an adventurer, always a guy looking for something to challenge himself. And so he began to really think about in his travels, like, why am I seeing people living longer than people in the United States? And so he literally went on his quest for longevity. And he said, well, let me get together a team of experts and get some funding through National Geographic to literally go on an expedition to find out what are the secrets to living longer and better. So he started determining places where they saw a high concentration of centenarians, people living into their 100s. And him and his team of researchers, along with National Geographic, literally just started asking these questions about where are we seeing this happening at, right? And what can we learn from these people, right? And so again, as I said, our mantra, that's what led to this mantra of our calling being to empower everyone everywhere to live longer and better, right? And if you think about that, that means to empower people means we must actually co-create together. Can't be just what we do at Blue Zones. It can't be just what the community does. We have to do this together and figure out what resources are in our community that can actually help this happen. But also that everyone everywhere means every individual within Jacksonville, every resident, every adult, every child deserves the opportunity to live better and longer. So how do we work with our individuals in our community, organizations, to actually make Jacksonville a healthier place, right? And when we think about that living longer and better, again, we want it to be a high quality of life, right? We don't want to live long with, multiple diseases or issues where we're in our 80s and we're not having a high quality of life. We want to live to 100 and still be physically active, like the people we'll see in Okinawa, Japan, as we talk through this presentation tonight. And so the longevity hotspots that Dan Buettner and his researchers found were these five original, what we call the longevity hotspots, right? Okinawa, Japan, Icaria, Greece, Sardinia, Italy, Nicoya Peninsula, Costa Rica, and Loma Linda, California. And what they realized when these gentlemen were looking at their map and finding these places, the way we got our name for our organization is literally they used a blue pen to circle the spots on the map, these five longevity hotspots. And so they said, hey, since we use the blue pen, let's just call our project Blue Zones, right? And so that's where that blue color, as far as the lettering, comes from as well. And so these five original spots had some commonalities that Dan Buettner and his team found. And they literally said, well, let's take these back and figure out how do we use these to reverse engineer what is happening in America, right? So these nine commonalities became what we call the Power Nine or our Blue Zone solution model, right? So it starts at this core four in the middle where you see move, right outlook, eat wisely, and connect. And then you have our Power Nine principles around the edge of that core four. So moving naturally, what we saw in all five of these original Blue Zones regions were their environment nudged them to move consistently. They didn't have automobiles like us in some places to be able to, get to where they wanted to go. They had to walk, had to bike. Then you have places like Sardinia, Italy, that's literally going up and down hills and steps on a consistent basis, right? And you have the ladies and the gentlemen in Okinawa, Japan. They don't have tables where we sit in chairs. They literally sit on the floor, crisscross applesauce like when we were in preschool, right? Or kindergarten. And they get up and down off the floor continuously all day, right? And so again, their environments cause them to move in a way that ours doesn't now. Where a lot of what we have is so convenient. Cars, we have ride shares, right? Or we can catch the bus, or we even have to bike. We bike to a certain point, and then we may go get a car that we're going to borrow for, energy sake, just to drive downtown to our meeting and then bike back to our home. I know a good friend of mine who does that every day. And I'm impressed by him because he's getting his steps in, he's getting a lot of physical activity in his day by biking to work, right? But also they believe in this idea of purpose. Okinawa, Japan, they call it ikigai, which means their why, their reason for living. So every morning they think about their why, for why they get up and put their feet on the ground every day. And then they also believe in downshifting, right? In America, we go, 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 do, keep going, add more things to our plate. In their mindset, no, right? Less is better. Less is better. Do what you have to do. The rest you figure it out, right? Places like Sardinia, Italy shut down their entire city for a 5-hour block in the day where people can go home and take a nap. All business stops, all restaurants close, all business stop. People go home, take a nap, and then at 5 o'clock, the city opens back up again and it's vibrant all the way into the nighttime, right? But they build in this time of rest so that people can rejuvenate themselves and not constantly be on the go. But even downshift in the sense of doing yoga, meditation, right? Journaling, being artists and being creative, taking time to actually, unwind a little bit and step away from the stress. Then we look at eating wisely, right? They believe in this a principle of 80% rule in Okinawa, Japan. That term is Hari Hachabu. So just like we say grace in some of our cases before we eat, they literally say to themselves, Hari Hachabu, and it reminds them everything on that plate doesn't have to be eaten, only 80% of it, so that they don't find themselves too full where they're not able to continue to be active in their day, right? And so then we got plant slant. Plant slant doesn't mean that they all are vegetarians or vegans, but what it does mean is that they consume whole vegetables, whole fruit, a lot of beans, a lot of nuts, a lot of homemade things, no processed items. Everything is made fresh, right? They're also growing their own produce in their yard in their own gardens. That leads to that movement at the top as well, right? And so then they do eat meat, but they eat it maybe 3 times a month. So think about in a 30-day month, they're only eating a piece of meat for one meal. They're not eating all 3 meals in a day as well, right? And then the last piece, wine and five, in Sardinia, Italy. They believe in the power of a certain type of wine that is literally like an antioxidant that they consume 4 to 6 ounces a day while having a meal with family. So they're not drinking socially or at a happy hour or just randomly at home. They're literally in community together, having a meal, and they have a glass of wine with it. And it's only one glass. They're not having two or three with that meal. They're just having one almost as a way of community coming together and sharing a cup, right? And so that leads to that last part of connect, right? With a positive pack, all of us need a positive pack of people around us that are helping us understand who we are, how to help us get to where we need to be successful, but we're also doing the same for them. So this give and take in our relationships of making each other better. And then loved ones first, right? Intergenerational connections are important. I grew up really close to both of my maternal and my paternal grandparents. They were like second and third set of parents who helped guide me, right? And helped pour into me and give me things that I know I needed that I still apply now to, as a 45-year-old and as a father of two beautiful girls, right? And so then belonging, right? We all need a sense of belonging that can come through our faith traditions that we may ascribe to, whether that's Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, or Christianity, right? That sense of belonging, literally, in these studies, they find that people who have a connection or belong to something bigger or outside of themselves live 7 to 8 years longer than people who don't, right? And so that again, that connection to something bigger than ourselves always loops back to that right outlook, right? My faith gives me a right outlook personally, which then informs my purpose, but also informs my need to take a Sabbath and relax some days, right? And I can't work 7 days a week. I have to take one day to rest and just rejuvenate, right? So as we look at our Power Nine, we realize that we took these original principles from our blue zones that are, those longevity spots, but how do we zero it down to blue zone project communities here in the United States? There were 75 prior to us coming on as Jacksonville. We are number 76. Since we started 2 years ago, they've already brought in another 6 communities. So Blue Zones is catching wind across the country, and people want, again, community health to be more prioritized nowadays. They don't want it to be just an individual thing. We know we all, even if I'm well, if my neighbor is not well, it's tough for us to really see a true community that's vibrant and thriving, right? And so for our work, we look at this piece of how do we want to start? And I think Dennis can speak to this. When we first started, the CEO of Baptist Health, the former CEO of Baptist Health, he lived in Fort Worth, Texas. He brought us in as, hey, I think Jacksonville's ready to become a Blue Zone city. He started the conversation, connected us with Mayor Curry and just other important people throughout the city. And they said, well, if we do this, uh, we don't want to start where everywhere. We want to start where we're seeing the most largest health disparities. And so when you look at health zone data for Jacksonville, the area codes that popped up first were 32210, 32244, 32206, 32208, 32209. So when we look at health data across our city, this is one of the areas where we're seeing the largest health disparities in our city. And so they said we want to really focus on healthcare equity because our providers, who are some of our sponsors, realize that the issue sometimes is access, right? It's that literally a lot of people who live in some of these zip codes don't have access to consistent care for various reasons, right? Financial challenges, also the location of a good primary doctor or a specialist they may need. And so they wanted to focus it. That doesn't mean we don't care about all of Jacksonville. We do, but we realize if we focus in these areas where we're seeing the largest disparities with our people of color, we can actually see if we change health outcomes in these communities, it'll spill over into the major part of our cities, even the more healthier areas of our city as well. And so we want to see everybody thrive. And so for our work, we'll talk about the different pillars, but for our work with policy in schools, it is citywide. It's literally across all of Jacksonville. Um, Obviously DCPS is our school district. So we had to do some different than some of our other cities that have done this work. Policy is always citywide because we know efforts like the Emerald Trail actually connect our community in ways and promote healthy well-being in ways that we could not even imagine, right? And so moving on to the next slide, and I'll make sure I leave plenty of time for you guys. Just wanted to show this. I won't stay on this long. This is literally the trajectory of how our project has operated. As you see, it started in June 2021. And like you said, COVID kind of threw us off when it first got brought to the city in 2019. But we still were doing some work once COVID let up with assessment, listening to the community, making sure we're hearing what are some of the concerns in our community? What are some concerns in those zip codes that I showed you, which we saw the biggest issues and disparities? And then who are the partners? Who are the people that who wanted to come join this work and see Jacksonville become healthier overall? And then we went into a discovery mode. We went to start to talking to people throughout the city who influenced the work in alcohol and tobacco, built environment, food systems, grocery stores, restaurants, schools and youth groups, and faith-based organizations. And then we went to what we call our night on June 3rd, 2000 kickoff at the fairgrounds. Some of you all may have attended. It was a big event. If I'm not mistaken, we know we had over 400 people show up to that event that day. Bounce houses, vendors, you name it. It was a great event, loved it. And we have been going ever since. And so now we are in that what we call our blueprint and transformation phase. And we're going into year 3, like I said, starting in June. We're wrapping up year 2 right now as we speak. And so when we talk about this work, we break it down into these 3 pillars because the reality is this: in our lives, we spend majority of our time in what we call our life radius, right? The life radius means almost all Americans spend 90% of their lives within a 20-mile radius of home. So I want you to think about it. That station that you go to the most often is within 20 miles of your home. The convenience store you go to if you got to run in and grab something real quick. Could be a Dollar General, again, could be a Family Dollar. The grocery store too, right? Whether that's in Dixie, whether that's Publix, whether it's a Walmart, right? You run in quick because it's the most closest thing to you. Another thing you may frequent is the faith-based institution you attend, the church, the temple, the mosque you attend could be within a 20-mile radius of your home. And so what we realize is if we really want to see change in people's lives, how do we affect these 3 buckets of people of things: people, places, and policy within that 20-mile radius, right? What are the permanent and semi-permanent changes that need to happen? I talked about it with policy, right? One of the legislations that our policy team was able to help support the city of Jacksonville pass was smoke-free parks, right? As a parent who doesn't smoke and had a father who smoked, unfortunately, I never had the desire to smoke. Didn't want to smoke, never wanted to be around it, right? As a parent, I didn't want my kids. So if I take them to the park for just a good time, I don't want to be inundated with smoke. We know you haven't been able to smoke in restaurants and in public places for some years. I'm glad, right? Because I grew up again with a father who smoked and would drop me off to school, and I would get out smelling like smoke, and I hated that, right? But also the health challenges that come when you're taking in secondhand smoke, right? The risk is a little bit higher, right? So that's one of the legislations we passed. Another one we're looking at is how do we help, cut down on some of the places where we need to have what we call road diets, where we can make parking skinnier and make more sidewalk access for people, right? So those are some of those policy initiatives. And then with places, we want to work with grocery stores, restaurants, work sites to actually begin to implement healthy policy and programming, as well as schools to make sure that we are impacting the people who frequent those places all the time. And then with people, again, working with civic and social organizations, faith-based organizations to come alongside them and figure out how do we help you all implement programming as well within your organizations that hold people accountable to making the healthy choice a little easier, right? Next slide. So again, here's that bucket, those four pillars that we kind of separated our work into. Again, with our people work, we look at individual engagement. Some of the activities we hold are what we call MOIs. MOIs are simply an Okinawa term where you get 8 to 10 people together and they do life together for 6 to 10 weeks. It could be a walking MOI, it could be a potluck MOI, it could also be a restaurant MOI. Like with our Blue Zones approved restaurants, we would love people to say, hey, I'm gonna get a group of my friends together. We're going to just go to different restaurants once a week and try some of their Blue Zones approved menu items to see how we can eat healthier. Another thing we look at is those purpose workshops. We've done them throughout the city at churches. We've done them at work sites. We've done them in schools. Myself, I've done them with a couple of our schools and some of our youth organizations. And then we believe in volunteerism, right? The way we make our city even better is us giving of ourselves, our service, our time, our talent to help make our city better. And so we again work with these institutions, faith-based, civic and social public awareness with media. I'm sure some of you all may have seen some of the stories following our work online or within on social media. If you don't, please follow us at Blue Zones Project Jacksonville on Instagram, Facebook, or even LinkedIn. I spoke about the policy work. Again, schools, we make sure we're working with schools to implement policy and programming that supports holistic health for our students, right? We know COVID caused some mental health challenges for our young people that we're still seeing some results from, right? We're still seeing them work through it. Right now, they're saying at least 34% of our students are overweight or obese right now. And what we used to do as kids walking to and from school, we're seeing less than 25% of our students walking to school, right? And we know here in Jacksonville, one of the challenges we have is busing. And some of that is because of our magnet programs in different regions, but you don't see kids walking to school as much as we used to, right? And so that physical activity before and after school is not being built into their lives. And then again, places, restaurants, grocery stores, convenience stores. And we're not talking about just your big spot, your big stores like Walmart, Publix. We're looking at those small convenience stores like the Deb store now out east. We worked with Goodwill as well as the Deb store ownership. In fact, Deb store is becoming a Blue Zones approved convenience store next week. Actually, next Wednesday, we'll be having a celebration with them just to show that they're prioritizing health and well-being for the residents in that community as well. So our commitment to the blueprint, we believe in full transparency. If you go to our website, you'll see this document lives on our website for anyone to look at. It is the governing document for our work. We did that intentionally because we have no need to hide the hand, right? We want people to know exactly why we're here, what we're doing with this project, in all of those pillars policy, people, places, as well as schools. Because again, the only way we can really do this is the community knowing what we're doing, how we're doing it, how we all can come together. We don't believe in doing anything to the community. We believe in doing everything with the community to make sure that we improve the health and well-being of the residents here in Jacksonville. So if you got your phone, you are more than welcome to scan that QR code. It'll take you straight to our website with our blueprint on there. And I'll pause for a second for anyone who might be doing that. All right, our partners. So this is what I love to talk about as well. We are not a nonprofit at Blue Zones Project Jackson. This is a for-profit organization that's on a national level. We have Blue Zones Project. Blue Zones Project LLC is our national umbrella company. And again, we have over 80 different communities who have taken this and became certified Blue Zone cities are in the process like we are. Our partners here are the ones who literally have put up the money and the resources for us to do this work here in Jacksonville. Baptist Health, Brooks Rehab, City of Jacksonville Community First Credit Union, Florida Blue, Jacksonville Jaguars Community Foundation, say that 5 times, JU, Jesse Ball DuPont Fund, Mayo Clinic, UF Health, and then United Way of Northeast Florida. So these are our partners, again, who brought us into the city and have literally have walked alongside us. They have members on our sector committee who literally help, again, govern the process of what we're doing on a month-to-month basis. And so I always like to share this slide as well. This is our team. You may recognize some of these wonderful faces. I stood in tonight for our wonderful executive director, Nicole Ham, who is on that to the left in the first picture. And so she asked if I would step in. I'm glad to be with you all tonight. And so I'll stop there. And I will ask again, you can scan this code down here. It'll take you to our website. It lists everything about us. It has the profiles for these wonderful people I get to work with, and share some of our background information, but also connects you to our current events and things that are going on in the community. And to give you a chance to dig a little deeper if you want more information about our project. Also, follow us on social media again on Instagram, Facebook. We're on YouTube as well as LinkedIn at Blue Zones Project Jacksonville or BZP Jacksonville, as you guys see. And I believe that was my last one. Yep. So I'll open the Q&A and I'll actually stop sharing so I can see faces. I'm at that point where I need to see some people. All right.
Well, thank you, Rashid.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Sure.
Um, since this is a for-profit group, they must have a contract of sorts where they commit to some results at the end of the contract period.
That's correct.
What are they, and how are you measured, and how are you doing so far?
Great question. So that blueprint document that I mentioned, within that document, each one of our pillars, we have certification goals that we follow each year. So I'll talk about schools since that's my lane. So again, Duval County, at the time when we first started, had between public and public charter schools had over 158 schools. Obviously, some of that is being consolidated. Some schools are closing. So that number's changed, but within those target zip codes that you all saw, there were a total of 52 schools. Again, that number is changing now with some of the consolidation that's happening within the district. So of those 52, my goal was to get at least 50% of those schools to become Blue Zones approved schools. So what does that mean? That means we sit down with schools and we talk to them about what policies are in place and what programs are in place within that school that are actually driving health and well-being for our students. So a good example for policy would be, we already know all of our schools are tobacco-free zones, right? That's an easy one. But we also know, unfortunately, that our young people are being exposed to vaping, right? So our job has been able to go in with tobacco-free Jacksonville and drug-free Duval and literally begin to ask what programming is happening within schools that's reinforcing what we know is the policy already that exists for DCPS. And so we get to be what we like to call ourselves as a community connector and one who amplifies the work of other organizations in our community. We don't have to do the work. There's no need for us to, and there are people who are already doing it great. So our relationships with tobacco-free Jacksonville and drug-free Jacksonville is giving us a chance to connect those programming resources to schools to really talk about the risk of vaping and some of the new vaping measures that we don't even know what's going on. Like now, I just found out last month, there's now vaping tobacco products for young people to put in their mouth, like the strips, the Listerine strips that we used to have. So now they're getting tobacco through those. They're not just vaping on, and vaping pens are not looking like the pens we know. They're using school supplies. So
Mhm.
going back, when we work with those schools, if they become approved schools, we get to bring those partners with us, those resources that come to them for free or little of no charge for them to get some additional programming that they're not able to bring into the school for some of the budgetary challenges that we know are happening. So that's one of the criteria for me. But also, we're looking at the end of these 5 years, how do we work with the district DCPS itself to enact some change within their wellness policy that becomes more sustainable also for them to be able to oversee how schools are being healthy and well as well. Hopefully that answered the question.
That's great. I do have some other questions, but I'd like members of our audience to weigh in with questions.
Sure.
I know we have the president of our guild on, who is a very active health professional, has been doing that for years and years. And she may not be able to speak, but I'll ask her. Jocelyn Turner, any questions?
No, no questions for me. I put a comment early on in there when you asked the question starting out, what what things would we like to see in our neighborhood? And thank you for joining us this evening. I talked about the things, my mom, for example, was saying a few moments ago, something that we don't think about when it comes to access to care. Although we may have places to go in our neighborhoods, used to rather, a lot of places are moving further and further out. And if you're a senior citizen, you now are relegated to getting transportation because you don't like to drive that far,
Mhm.
or something. So when we talk about what we need to advocate for, that's something that we need to advocate for, having more resources closer to neighborhoods so that people won't have to go so far. I know some of the providers have started maybe offering services 1 day a week close to a neighborhood, but then that
Mhm.
means your appointment might be months away. So, and I don't know if that's something that you all are addressing, but it's definitely something that's becoming more of an issue in our communities.
Thank you for that. Yes, one of the conversations we've had with our steering committee members from these different organizations, our sponsors, obviously, as you saw, Florida Blue Baptist Health, Brooks Rehab, we've told them, uh, yes, Blue Zones is great, right? We're here in the community on the ground, trying our best to listen to the community and provide feedback. And we've told them, you have to put the resources in the community. There's no other way to do it, right? If you don't, it continues to be this gap between the consumer and those who are providing the service. And we've told them, it's like, we get it. Certain parts of the city provide you all more infrastructure, but the reality is those who are in those zip codes that I raised are the ones who are having the transportation access issues, right? And so then you have a challenge of being able to build a rapport with a particular practitioner consistently, right? I know I personally prefer going to my primary care physician that I've been with now for 4 years, right? I don't want to switch. I don't want to have to go to somebody else and try to tell them what's going on with my health. I want to be able to go to him and he knows my history. He knows what's going on. We've been in communication and he knows my family. In fact, he's my wife's primary care physician as well, right? So there's this opportunity for us to build a rapport with him that's not just a random person. So I think you hit it on for sure, Ms. Turner. Like that's a conversation we are having with our sponsors. Like you guys got to get closer, and that's I'll be honest, that's part of why we also work with Agape Family Health Center because we know they have different locations throughout Jacksonville in some of these same communities and are providing some of the services that our community need, Whether you're insured or uninsured, you still need these access to these services.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you're
Thank
right, and
you.
I'm happy to hear that those conversations are taking place. I think I would like to ask you, if you can comment, what can the general public do a better or to advocate for those resources that are missing in their neighborhoods?
Thank you. Great question. I think to be honest, it goes to the point of any time that you have a chance to attend um, any events that are offered for by some of these providers, because they do provide some, not all of them. Some of them are better, but literally going to those events and saying, hey, we're noticing something. You guys have a lot of opportunities on the south side or on the north side. We're noticing out east, it's not there. We're noticing on the west side, it's not there, right? So coming to those opportunities, but also using us when we have our community events. Please tell us. We're meeting with these people on a month-to-month basis. Nicole, our ED, is literally bringing to them what we're hearing from you all in our community when we have our listening sessions, when we have our purpose workshops. Because the reality is this: we know you all have a better understanding of what's happening than we do, right? Some of us I live in 32221, close to one that side, but close enough to 10 and 4-4 that I know what's not out of there. I can tell people what is not on Normandy or what we miss. We don't even have enough healthcare professionals out here. It's moving this way. Hopefully, when the fairgrounds get to the equestrian center, we'll see a little more development and a lot more services being provided. There's not even transportation past a certain point on Normandy Boulevard, right? So if you're out here on this end without a car, you're stranded. And so a lot of it is just really making sure we show up and holding people accountable in city council. I'll be honest. We got to help hold them accountable in the sense of where you're allowing development to happen dictates what's happening in the city. People are going to go where you allow them to go and where the money is going, right? So if our communities aren't being redeveloped unless someone is coming in and gentrifying it, it doesn't get the attention it needs, right? But when we go to the CPACs, when we go to other community members and say, no, we're noticing that you're building all this wonderful stuff, these clinics, these urgent care opportunities in certain communities and not in ours.
And have you had some success with that?
We have their ear. Let me say this. And I want to say that there's a reason why Blue Zones was brought in. They know they needed a mediator to come in and be able to provide the community a space and a place where they could see opportunities to communicate their concerns and to make that connection between them and the community. Unfortunately, Jacksonville has a long history of people who've made promises and have not delivered. I love the title of this call, right? Racial healing and reconciliation. There are a lot of people who are upset in our city in those zip codes because they've heard this, somebody's told them that, and it hasn't happened. So they're using our project and our intentionality to really gain a better understanding of what they don't know or what needs to happen for the community. So I'll be honest, Dennis, it's early in the process. We're only 2 years in. We have their ear for sure. They are pleased with what they're seeing, the turnout at our purpose workshops at churches in the community, to see the youth health summits we've had a chance to do on the east side with Emory Center and Malavia Washington Teen Center. They're seeing some of the work, but it's like, okay, you're seeing it, and now you can't make the excuse that people don't want these services. That's far from it, because you're seeing that they're turning out. So the question is, in addition to these, what does it look like 5 years from now when we're done? Will there be more infrastructure? Will there be more places where people can go? Because now you have the data, you have the information that's showing that they're coming and they're participating and they're concerned about their health and well-being. So what are you going to do about it? And that's on us to hold them accountable for that as well.
Other questions from the audience? Well, I will follow up with, I completely understand, by the way, that you're just really beginning. You know, particularly with COVID interrupting the start, made it quite difficult. And you kind of got to my question in your last couple of sentences. As the project winds down, what is it that you can hope to leave in place that will ensure sustainability?
Great question. As I said, we intentionally have made sure we're doing this work alongside the community. And so in these next, literally as we start year 3 in June, Nicole has already had that conversation with us like, this year and year 4 is the time where we begin to literally take what we've been doing and work with our community partners to take it on and continue it. So Purpose Workshops should not end because Blue Zones leaves, right? Purpose Workshops should continue, right? Through our partners, through our churches, right? Through our community, social, civic and social organizations that have allowed us to come in, right? We can train people on how to do them. They're very simple. So we do want to, it's kind of like teach the teacher mindset is what we're going to adopt in this next 2 years, and really begin to say, hey, we'll walk alongside you as you're learning how to do it, but then eventually we want to come and just sit in and observe you doing it. So by year 5, again, Purpose Workshops should already be functioning, right? Those wellness sites where we made work sites become Blue Zones approved. There's a criteria to remain a Blue Zones approved restaurant to be retained, to continue to be a Blue Zones work site, as well as a Blue Zone school. Our principals, when I work with them, I tell them this is step 1. Going through the process and becoming one is step 1. In the subsequent years, our job is to walk alongside them and make sure, fun runs are a healthy fundraiser that's happening for their school versus candy sales, right? We want them to make sure students aren't getting access to those sugary sweets and access to vending machines versus actually getting access to healthier snacks. They can implement a healthy snack program, right? All schools have incentives where kids can earn, different bucks or different incentives. Hey, how about we have a cart that has healthy foods that you're actually letting them purchase from, or that school store, right? When you have birthday celebrations, parents don't have to bring cake, right? You got great places like Ice Capades, one of our approved restaurants that actually provides whole fruit juice, 100% fruit juice ice cups, right, with different flavors. Because the founder literally herself was like, I have family diabetes history, still loved ices, but I wanted to actually do something to make them a lot more healthier. So here she is selling those healthy treats at Ice Capades. And so again, it's enough people doing it. That's the thing that's kind of blew our minds is the more we do this work, we're seeing people who are already doing great work and already promoting the healthier choice. How do we work with them to make it more sustainable and make it more amplified around us? And that's really what we're doing. So it's train the trainer and let them begin to do what we're doing in their organizations and beyond. So that way, when we're done. It's not okay, Blue Zones left, we're done. No, we're still making sure that these things are sustainable beyond it. And there's also the incentive for our sponsors and their organizations as we become a Blue Zone certified city. Blue Zones National wants them to think about it from after the project. You have a 10-year window where you still have access to the Blue Zones branding items where you can say, hey, Jacksonville is a Blue Zones city, right? Why does that matter? Well, if I'm looking for somewhere to stay, that's a great honor to know that I'm going somewhere where that's promoting health and well-being across our city. And we can see great things like the Emerald Trail connecting communities where people can walk, bike, roller skate, right? And literally get outside in the community and take advantage of this wonderful city.
To what extent has the size of the city been a real challenge? I mean, it's so huge.
It has been a challenge. I'll be honest. This first 2 years we use Gallup. One of the things you asked me, and I forgot to add this. So we use Gallup poll data Each year we send out the survey 2 times, one in the fall, and one, I believe, in the spring, where we actually send it out randomly to different people within our target zip codes. And we send them $1 with the survey. I mean, I know $1 not a lot, but we're hoping the dollar causes them to go ahead and fill out the survey. It's not that long, takes less than 10 minutes to fill out. But we use that Gallup data to really think about what does wellness look like. So Gallup uses a well-being index that looks at how people feel about living in the city. How do people feel like aging in the city and remaining here? What's the job market like? Do they feel like they have opportunity for employment and advancement? They also look at, like, are you engaging in physical activity on a consistent basis? Are you outside, or are you spending most of your time isolated with indoors? So that Gallup poll data kind of informs what we're hearing about, people's thoughts, one, about blue zones, because one, we want to make sure we're making our organization known and making people aware of it, right? And so this last wave of data from year 2 showed us that we've seen an uptick of people knowing who we are on the east side. So you think about your Springfields out east, we've seen that level go up. We've seen it also go up in parts of the west side, 32210, because we've had a couple of approved schools there and some restaurants, but we've struggled to get 32244. So for us, we know our efforts in year 3 got to kind of expand to that area. We're also seeing the north side. We're not seeing the same amount of awareness about our project as we're seeing it in those other areas. So really what we do is really use that data, trying to figure out where do we need to put our efforts in this 3rd year, and then in year 4. And then obviously in year 5, we're hoping the awareness is at a point where there's enough people knowing what's going on till when we hand off the reins, so to speak, to the city for year 5 and become a Blue Zone certified city, that awareness will be heightened enough where we're seeing even those late adopters feeling like Blue Zones is something they want to see happening within their organizations and in their community.
I have other comments, but just want to make sure if anyone else has any.
You got great questions, Dennis. So thank you.
I
I
was
appreciate
I
it.
was going to say the same thing. Dennis, you have such great questions.
Well, actually, I went on to Google and said, what are some good questions to ask of the Blue Zone project? And it's a whole page of them. But these are the ones I'm asking are really just have come to mind as your good presentation has brought them up. One thought I had, we've been doing a lot of work in Health Zone 1 and in those zip codes, and we spent 4 years working with seniors, getting them to recognize the need for health checkups, get exercise. We even incentivized their family members to be coaches for them to get them to exercise. We were very, very successful. And we also tackled the problem of transportation to food, as well as to their physicians. And that was one of the most difficult things, because the city has to provide funding for each route change, which is ridiculous. They have to get a city council ordinance passed just to move or lengthen a path for a bus or whatever. And but we were able to get we tried hard to get some stores to open up, put in more vegetables and things, but we were able to get a portable store in Health Zone 1 through the help of Feeding Northeast Florida.
Okay.
And I'm assuming it's still operating. Another challenge was JTA said, well, we really can't get the buses into the projects because there are all these things in the way. Well, he said, why don't you get them out of the way? And they finally got to work on it, and otherwise you have these elderly people trying to get across these streets that are very dangerous. And, sure, it costs maybe even a couple $100,000, but you fix the problem for a lot of people. And that's where you folks can come in and really make a difference, because you've got gravitas and authority.
And that's exactly where, for those who may know my colleague, Marlo Zarka, she's been in the policy world and political world for a while here in Jax. And yeah, she's the one. She's like, hey, some of this just doesn't make sense. It's simple. It's not rocket science. A lot of it is just do right by the people in the city, right? If you take care of the people in the city, the benefits alone, if we think about the healthcare expenditures that will be reduced if we just improve infrastructure in Jacksonville, right? The stuff you're hitting, Dennis, access to the doctor. You're going to see healthcare costs decrease, not by just millions. You're going to see billions, right? So as we look at the news and we see, Jacksonville struggling to agree on a budget, right? As we speak, you think about it, right? It's not just what's happening in those meetings. The question is what's happening in our communities where we can see just smart development, smart change, right? That is going to benefit the people, not just businesses, but the people. So if you benefit the people, guess what? The businesses are going to thrive and they're going to benefit as well as a result of it, right? But again, we'll see better healthcare outcomes happening in our communities as well. We'll see those disparities lower. We'll see less usage of emergency rooms by uninsured and uninsured people. We'll see it. If I give you access to a place that you can get healthy food and not just processed junk from a convenience store, by helping convenience stores do what we call market makeovers, right? You could see a convenience store have fresh produce. We've seen it in other Blue Zones regions where that owner, if he desires, we can say, hey, we can actually even show you where your sales will increase if you provide this community fresh produce, fresh fruits and vegetables that they need, the staples. You don't have to have everything that the supermarket has, but your staples, a bell pepper, onion, right?
Yeah.
Strawberries, apple. It sounds like it's minor, but it's
Yeah.
major in its impact.
I
But
went to
that store owner wants help. How do we get
yeah.
funding to help him make that money, Marco? Make market makeover.
I went to a convenience store in Boston over the weekend, and I needed some fruit because I just wasn't getting my usual 5 fruits a day. So I went in to a 7-Eleven, and they had some apples, and I bought some apples, brought them back to my hotel, and they were great. I expected them to be like, past their time, and but clearly a lot of people were going in there, expect with high expectations, and
And
well,
then where do you think they got those apples?
well, I assumed from a produce truck or something.
Someone local, right? So it
Yeah,
could have been a
yeah.
local farmer or organization right there, right? So you think about that. Sorry for all these alarms going off. So you think about that, right? They got that from a local farmer in that area, or at least a place that's providing fresh produce, right? So now again, you're talking about an economic impact, right? That's right there within the city. So what they realize is we got enough people now who want, I mean, even if we all think about when you travel, when I travel across state lines, I go into Busy Bee, there's bananas, there's oranges, and there are apples. Now there's some other stuff that I love that I don't need. The praline pecans. I mean, the pecans are great, but I don't need that praline on the outside of it, right? Right. But again, these are local farmers benefiting from this commerce, right? And so you're giving people options. They can make the healthy choice the easier choice if it's there. If it's not even there or I don't have access to it, you can't assume that I'm gonna make the choice that I have to make. I have to eat. So if you only got Takis, I'm gonna eat Takis.
Well, we're out of time. We are on these monthly hours. We always like to promise people will end at 8, so they'll come and not stay away. But this has been great, Rashid. I'm really glad that we were able to connect and for you to share the successes so far. And as we were talking before we got started, we're anxious to continue to work with you and Nicole. Nicole, she's a graduate of the Jacksonville Urban League Young Professionals, and she's doing a fantastic job. So very pleased with what's happening. So we look forward to working with you in the future.
Looking forward to working with you all as well. Thank you all for this opportunity again. I know the hour is not enough. There's a lot of, and we want more community support. So please follow us. Please look on our website and find ways to connect with us. This is a community issue. We're not here to solve it on our own. We're here to work with the community to make sure Jacksonville is healthy as possible. And so please join us in some of this. If you want us to come to your organizations and share more about our project, we would love to. So thank you all.
Well, thank you. And I wanted to thank Sadia Barge, our intern coordinator. And I see we have Shayla Smith on. These are the folks that help make these meetings possible. So thank you very much. And once again, shout out to Jocelyn Turner, president of our guild and a very active health professional in our city. So thank you. You have a wonderful evening, and we look forward again to seeing you on our program.
Night all.
Thank you.
Good night.